Now, climate change can't happen because of human activities. God don't make in such a way that when we breathe out carbon dioxide, when our vehicles, our cars produce carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, when our farms produce methane, the plants, they use these things for photosynthesis, and that one they remove carbon from the atmosphere. But we don't cut down almost all the trees, and our activities, the cars we drive, the generators, and the oil companies, they produce gas. We don't pass waiting the plants fit control, fit take away. And that one can increase the amount of carbon dioxide we give for the atmosphere. And waiting can happen as a result of this carbon. We don't have plenty for the atmosphere. The carbon dioxide and methane, naturally, when the heat of the sun can't reach Earth, part of the heat, they reflected back to the atmosphere. But carbon dioxide and methane can serve as a blanket where they trap the heat. So instead of the heat to go back, the heat can't deal with us. And now make the sun the hot. Just recently I tell somebody as I walk out under sun, can't reach house. I said, I better check my head whether I smoke dey. Like say this sun don't dey burn my head. The sun don't dey very hot more than before. And because the sun don't dey very hot, it can't make the temperature of the earth dey high. And that one can also affect, for polar regions, some areas for this world, like the extreme north and the extreme south, where they call polar region, then they very cold, extremely cold, where we say that they get ice, where they form something like mountain, and for the ground for those areas, for the polar region. And the water, the same ice they did for the ocean too, for those places, where they call icebergs, then they did for the ocean. Now, the increase in the temperature, as the temperature can increase, it can cause those things to melt. The ice, normally when they put ice block outside the fridge, over some time, because the temperature will increase, it will melt. It will come form water. Now, so it can be. So water can plenty. As water can increase as a result of the melting of this ice, because temperature don't increase, it can cause rise in sea level, because as the water for the ice they melt, they enter our river water then. So as they enter the river water, it can cause flooding. That's one way they cause flooding, and one other way now as a result of extreme weather, because too much water, as the water they come, sun they also evaporate, the water go form cloud. So the rain we receive, we get now can be more than before. It can cause extreme weather, extreme storm, and the volume of water when they come fall as rain at the same time during the rainy season can be more than waiting our water bodies fit accommodate. So water, just as the commissioner talked, water will always find a level. So the water can spread, can increase past the level where our water bodies fit contain. Now, so you can just enter land, places where people they live, places where even the forest where living organisms they stay. Now people they experience flood. So one of the impacts of climate change, now this melting of the ice for the polar region. So research talks the ice when they melt from land, they get more impact than the one when they did in sea, because that already they sea, and then they cause much problem, because even if it melt, not the same place where it did before. But when they land, waiting for the ice caps for polar region, as they melt, they cause big problem. Now, as these things they happen, first, the volume of water will increase. They affect what they call the physical chemistry of the water. Two things that affect the water quality: the heat and the volume of water. The volume of water, which is fresh water, they reduces the level of salinity with the salt within the water. And then temperature, as the sun dey hot, when they heat the water, they increase the water temperature. And wetin be the impact? As the heat they increase, God make am in such a way we say they get feeding relationship between organisms. Some organisms, some plants, small plants, green plants, wey dem dey call phytoplanktons, then they dey for the surface of the water. Then they use the heat from the sun to they carry out photosynthesis. Now that heat, because e don pass wetin dem fit accommodate, dem fit manage, e con dey kill the phytoplanktons. And as phytoplanktons dey die, the rate at which the oceans they use carbon, they remove carbon dioxide from the ocean, can they also reduce. And the reduction of the increase in carbon dioxide affects the organisms because it increases the acidity of the water. So organisms, animals and plants wey suppose survive for the surface of the water, can they die. And when those ones die, e con dey affect the fish wey dey feed on those other smaller animals dem no con dey see plenty to eat. So fish sef con dey reduce. Na im make currently we no dey fit kill plenty. One of the reasons, the other reasons dey, as my brother Reynolds talk, overfishing and the use of net wey dey gather both small and big fish. Those ones dey contribute to, but these other factor they also contribute, because when the fish no see wetin e go eat, e go reduce the level of survival of these organisms. And as the flood come occur, it dey cause some organisms to migrate and even die. Research shows say many organisms dey go into extinction because of climate change in the temperature of the water and of the air. Dey cause some organisms no fit stand that change, and they reduce these organisms. So climate change dey cause a lot of problems. A lot of problems, just as I mentioned. They cause reduction of the number of fish. It dey cause flood, just as we don mention. So when I don take one point home, say the flood no be something wey just dey happen. Na because of wetin we dey do dey cause flooding. So wetin we fit do to avoid these problems? My oga don talk plenty, but I wan add to wetin he don talk. One way na to reduce emission of greenhouse gases. And that is to say, instead of flaring the gas, make we convert that gas to usable energy, to liquefied natural gas. Then make we plant trees, and make we also use renewable energy like solar. Solar self na one of the advantages of climate change, because as the sun dey hot, when you use solar panel, you go charge your battery well, and you go get enough electricity for house. So make we use renewable energy like solar, wind energy, and others, and even electric cars. And this one will help to reduce climate change. And make we stop to dey cut down trees indiscriminately. Because urbanized, as we develop, we dey feel say, this bush sef, we no need bush for our place. Just be like say we no follow. Those trees na dey protect us, na then dey give us the air wey we dey breathe. Na then dey make the earth cool, because as they remove carbon dioxide, enough the heat go reflect back to the atmosphere, and we no go dey get too much heat. So this one na the better thing wey I say make I discuss. So far we don answer the question, wetin be climate change, and then why flood dey, and why the environment dey hot. And I thank you.
Let me clap for Dr. Thank you. Made it very easy for us to understand. So no be juju dey bring the wahala wey we dey see. A lot of it is constructed and made by men. Okay? Yes.